way that you show up. It's really important that we don't deny and suppress what's going on in our body. That's the barometer. That's how we understand our emotions. And we keep going up into our head. But rather than going into our head and intellectualizing what's going on, stay with the feelings in your body and allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and recognize it and say, oh, I feel discomfort, or I feel fear, or I feel anxiety. Let me just check out why that's happening, what's going on, rather than just thinking that I must control myself. Yes. What you're doing is you're actually denying the gift that you've been given, which is how to assess for your own safety and get some control back for yourself.
Today's guest is my dear friend and the fabulous Stella Dove, author of Emotional Recalibration, Spiritual and Therapeutic Guidance Through the Toughest Challenges in Life. Stella Dove guides you through the turbulence of your inner child wounds by accessing the place where conscious and unconscious thoughts meet at the crucible of your belief system. In other words, why you feel, think, and say the things you do. Welcome, Stella.
Thank you so much, Anita. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is a pleasure. I'm so excited. And like I said, I've known you for a couple of decades, actually. Do you remember when you did the love...
The Love Brigade.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just actually looking at photos of that. That's such a thank you for remembering that. It was a long time ago, and just for the benefit of anyone listening, it was a day incentive where we gathered together and created bags of love, which we took out to the homeless. And it just shows you what the power of intention is. I put a note out on Facebook just saying, you know, it's coming up to Valentine's. It was around that time of year. And we keep walking past people. Why do we love some people and we don't love others? I mean, it just felt like, how can you be happy when you know other people are really miserable? And so that's what did it. But the thing mushroomed. I thought there'd be 20 or 30 people, and there ended up 500 people involved in that one event. And it was crazy. We got 300 bags filled with all sorts of goodies, blankets, sandwiches, gift cards to Costa, books, baby wipes, like everything went in there. And it was just such a beautiful day. And it was my hope that it would incentivize people to do it themselves. But, well, it didn't take off, but that's fine. I still do it. And I know that it changed the attitude for lots of people around homelessness, and to see the humanity in everyone, and know people's names, strike up conversation, and be kind. And if I could leave people with that and the memory of that, then how lovely. I'm glad I did it.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful day, just sharing and giving. And yes, I've done one here locally, I would say about 3 years ago. So that was really nice as well. Absolutely.
Fantastic. That is so nice. And I'm lucky because where I live, just opposite Leicester Square Tube Station, it is, there's every manner of person walking around. And I know my homeless friends. I know them by name, and I know what they like to eat. So if I'm cooking something and I think, well, I'll just run that down to them, or I'll just, it's just nice. It feels like community, and not everyone wants to live within societal restrictions, and lots of people are homeless by choice, not because they've got no other choice. And when you understand that, then you can give people back some dignity, because some people just choose to live that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good point there to be made. So let's get into this. So, what is one of the most courageous things you have done? Now, bearing in mind, I know you. Can you possibly pick one?
Well, I have had to be courageous, and many times in my life. And I think that sometimes when we look for courageous things that we've done, it's often the things that we volunteer ourselves to do that we see as courageous, not what we do when we're handed a set of circumstances and we bluff our way through, and we get to the other side and people say to us, that was so courageous. And we think, well, I just survived. I mean, I just sort of, kept going. And I love this question, Anita. I'm always fascinated by the answers. And mine is going to not sound like a great big thing, but it is to me. The most courageous thing I've ever done is become Stella. You know me, as you say, you've known me for a couple of decades. You have not always known me as Stella. And I became Stella at the beginning of this year. And it was a radical decision. And it's interesting that when we work in the personal development world, or, what people blanket label the personal development world, we tend to think that we should have it all together all the time. Because if not, you're unhealed, you'll be told. And that's simply not true. What we do is we have the tools to be able to process the challenges that life throw at us more quickly. We can pivot more elegantly, and we can come through things seamlessly by appearance, but we're doing all the legwork underneath, a bit like a swan, looking very graceful and paddling like mad underneath. So what happened to me was I had a perfect storm. Many things went wrong all at the same time, at the same time. And I felt like I was being, like I was a pinball inside a pinball machine, between the buffers, going boop, 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 and thinking, what the duck is going on in my life? And it was a bleep show. And so the only thing to do was, instead of running for the hills, was to stand and face it. And I realized, when I was doing some very, very deep inner child work, some very, very profound work, that I had abandoned my own needs several times over, resulting in this perfect storm happening. Because I had people pleased and acquiesced too much in my desire to be good enough, to be qualified enough, to have enough right to do what I do. And in that moment, I realized that I needed nothing more other than to be me. And actually, what needed to shed was all those beliefs, everything that I'd stood for, everything that I thought people thought of me or needed me to be. And I had to let go of an awful lot. And the only way to do that, instead of sort of either disappearing or doing something drastic, or I don't know, waking up in Australia or something, was to change my identity into an identity of choice and freshness, and let a lot go. So I became Stella Dove.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love it. And I love the name.
Thank you.
Absolutely suits you as well.
Thank you so much. It feels so good. And when people say my name, I love the sound of it. And that's new for me because I never did enjoy my last name. It always felt like I was being told off. It always did. And even now while I'm repairing, because there's lots that I realise I need to do, I have to say to myself several times a day when I catch myself, you're not doing anything wrong. You're okay. You're fine. You've got this. Because I keep thinking I should be doing something else. and
Yes.
that's a replay from childhood. If you think you're in trouble a lot, like, oh, should I busy? You have to be busy. You have to justify everything you do. You can't always relax. And so lots of that I've let go of. It's hard. And like I say, you catch yourself doing it. And when you do, just practice some compassion and just say, that's okay. It's nice that you've got that thought because at least you realize.
Absolutely. And I think it is being like, if we see a friend, how compassionate and calm and, loving are we towards them, but yet we can't forgive ourselves or be loving and kind and compassionate to ourselves. So that's a very good point to be made.
Oh, totally. If you spend a day, and I love to do this practice with my clients, and I say to them, just spend the day speaking to yourself like you would not just your best friend, but the child of your best friend, someone who you've got to treat really carefully and kindly and look after and make them feel good. Your best friend's child after they're feeling a bit down in the dumps. Like, try that one. Fill your cup up and say things to yourself like, don't you look nice today? Or let's go and eat something yummy and like have a treat, or let's go out for a lovely walk and enjoy the sunshine. Just being kind to yourself. And when you drop things, instead of saying butterfingers or however you reprimand yourself, that sounded very jolly hockey sticks, butterfingers. No, it isn't what I'd say. What I say is you couldn't publish. So, but instead of saying that to yourself, say, oh, that's fine. I can clean that up, or whatever it is, without feeling that dreadful plunge.
Absolutely. So tell me a bit about your backstory, because I know you have an incredible backstory as well of a time where, let's just say, one was driving Bentleys everywhere.
So my background was that I had, I think, a very low opinion of myself. And so that obviously has a further backstory. But I don't think if you're feeling that good about yourself, you would end up with a violent gangster, which is what happened to me when I was 21. And it was completely out of character. It wasn't, this was not my normal social circle. These were not the people I would have ever spent time with. I met someone and I did not realize that it would be extremely difficult to extricate myself from that relationship. I thought I was having a secret little adventure and that, it'd be something to tell the grandchildren. I didn't think I would end up fully ensconced, fully embroiled in a situation with serious criminals, and that there would be what seemed to be no way out other than death. So from the age of 21, I was in a relationship with an extremely bad man who was about 30 years my senior, which should have rung an alarm bell anyway, just for that reason alone. But I was enmeshed, and I had a lifestyle that most people would have thought was cool, because I did. I drove a Bentley, as you said, which is a bit like driving a tank, to be honest with you. It's not that great.
Not that glamorous.
No, I'd rather have a Fiat, to be honest. And everyone hates you when you're driving a Bentley. I had carrier bags with money, and I lived a bit like Scarface meets Bugsy Malone. It was like that. And the thing is that one by one, a master manipulator, which is what he was, they will pick off all your friends and your connections so that you become isolated. So by my 21st birthday, there was a dinner and I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know a single person at my own birthday party. But they came bearing gifts, which was also really bizarre. And look, to cut a long story short, he hurt me very badly. I had to have surgery because he was brutal, and it was also psychological damage, and which was actually far worse than any physical damage. Physical damage you heal from, but mental damage, scars, are more difficult to heal. And he would often tell me that he would kill me. He would put me out like a light, he used to say, like a light. And living with that kind of fear really does alter your brain. It actually changes your brain, the way that you are in fight or flight constantly. So your adrenals are triggered. You're constantly assessing for danger, for your survival. And it's very, very difficult to come out of that. And so even yesterday, and I was calm, I was relaxed. I was coming out of Chancery Lane tube station, and a really nice young man stopped me and said, "You've dropped something, madam." And I had just used my card to tap out of the gate, and I looked down and my card wasn't on the floor, and I freaked. I mean, my palms were sweaty. Just like, oh shit, I can't find it. And it was because he wanted to stop me to speak about knife crime, the irony. And I said to him, "You can't do that to people. We don't all have a sense of humor. I'm on the spectrum. I don't find this funny. If you want to talk to me, say, can I talk to you?" Oh my goodness, my tummy was like all tight. And so it just shows you how quickly you can snap into survival mode if that's what's happened to you in your past. And it can take a while to get back into a nice, calm state. And here's a tip, Anita, right? Bilateral stimulation. So I practice EMDR therapy, which is, we use eye movement, but we can also just gently tap. Now, I know if you're in the street and people are looking at you, they're going to think, what is she doing? But you can actually come back to a really calm space, just gently doing this for about 2-3 minutes. It's all you need to do. And it will calm and soothe your parasympathetic nervous system so you can get into a place where you can continue with your walk and not feel quite so jarred. So I hope that helps anyone. Breathing, obviously, box breathing. So you think of a box and you inhale, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And it's much easier if you can imagine going round a box, and it will start to calm you down. I know that I've suffered extreme fear.
Mm.
Someone trying to kill me is pretty high up on
Yeah.
the scale. We're talking, you know, the extreme of what fear can be.
Mhm.
But if you come back to just normal things like people upsetting you on the phone or having a regular argument like normal people do, practicing these techniques will get you back to a space where you're feeling a lot more in control a lot more quickly. And that's the point, is that not to berate yourself for feeling fear or
Mhm.
anxiety or whatever it is
Mhm.
you're feeling. Allow yourself to feel the feeling and get familiar
Yeah.
with how your body reacts. It's really important that we don't deny and suppress what's going on in our body. That's the barometer. That's how we understand our emotions. And we keep going up into our head, but rather than going into our head and intellectualizing what's going on, stay with the feelings in your body and allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and recognize it and say, oh, I feel discomfort, or I feel fear,
Mm.
or I feel anxiety. Let me just check out why that's happening, what's going on, rather than just thinking that I must control myself. What
Yes.
you're doing is you're actually denying the gift that you've been given, which is how to assess for your own
Mhm.
safety
Mhm.
and get some control back for yourself.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So, what took you on doing emotional recalibration work, Stella?
That's a great question. Thank you, Anita. So, for about 15 years or more, I've been coaching and concentrating more and more on inner child healing and trauma healing.
Mhm.
It became really apparent when I first started. It was all about being the best you can be. This is
Mm.
the personal development world.
Mm.
Rah! And I'm going to get you from good to great and rah! And it never really sat with me. And the kind of clients that I ended up working with, it would always be about something in their past that was
Mm.
informing their personality. So, in other words, the way that you show up is what you believe about yourself, what you
Yeah.
believe yourself to be, which is a result of your experiences. Because whatever happened to you, in order to survive it, you create this belief system.
Mhm.
And some of it can serve you and be beneficial, and some of it really doesn't.
Yeah.
And we have to just really pick apart who we are, a little bit
Mm.
like I'm sure you have in your kitchen, as I do in mine, a drawer in which you shove things. It might not be in the kitchen, but
Mm.
usually it's in people's
Mm.
kitchens. And there is a drawer, and in that drawer are broken things and lids to things or elastic bands, just all these bits and pieces. And when I tell people about what emotional recalibration is, I love this analogy of a kitchen drawer. It's a little bit like we take this drawer and we tip it out and we go through every single thing in that drawer and we decide, does it serve you? Is it working for you? Do you need it? Have you got too much of it?
Mm.
Are there other things that you need to put in that drawer that would enhance your life and make it better? Are things a bit rusty? Whatever. And so that whole idea is about taking some time
Mm.
for yourself to super analyze, to become really, really self aware without the guilt, without the shame, without the hanging on to other people's judgments and
Mm.
ideas of who you are. And with being fiercely, fiercely honest.
Yes.
Is this what I want? Is this who I am? If I could have a doppelganger, a twin, a higher self, someone who was like doing everything that I've got, but like the best every day. Am I matching her? Because sometimes I think to myself, what would Stella do? Really, if Stella was absolutely firing 100%, what choices does she make in nutrition, in movement, in what she consumes through the media, in the company that she keeps, in the business that she pursues, in the books that she reads? When you get to the end of the day and you put your head on the pillow, was that your best self that showed up that day or not? And it's about being honest and without berating yourself for where you think you could improve. Rather think to yourself, tomorrow's another day. I get another crack at this. I'm so grateful. And a little bit like the law of attraction, this is about being really, really happy with where you're at, being grateful for what you've got, feeling the blessings, and also being able to feel into what you want to be. Act as if, which isn't being inauthentic. It's about actually feeling the right to be who you want to be, because we tend to be overly humble, and it really is quite a UK based thing as well. It's not necessarily anywhere else, but we almost take the mickey out of people who really feel good about themselves, because we think, what are they on? We say it. Who do they think they are? And actually, who aren't you? Why shouldn't you be that? When you were a child and you were about 4 or 5, you didn't have that many fears around what other people think of you. You just were curious and excited and happy. Generally, I mean, unless it's been a bit of a pants childhood, but even if it's a pants childhood, there's still optimism. Unbelievably, even when children are going through a horrible time, and someone shows them even a tiny bit of kindness, they leap at it. And that's what we should be now as grown-ups. We should allow our children inside of us to still feel like that, to still be able to see the joy in a day, a connection, a smile, the joy of just going and getting an ice cream and sitting in the sunshine, or whatever it is for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
just being
the joy of being, because if you can get into the joy of being, you get a lot more. The universe listens to your frequency, to your vibration. And if you can't be happy with just being, then you're going to be permanently unhappy, because that's what you're saying to the universe. And that's not saying I don't want more, or I don't want different, or I don't want to multiply what I have, because of course we can do that, but we have to be able to sit in where we're at and know that there's so much joy and magnificence in just our existence, just by breathing. It's fabulous.
Wow, that's absolutely brilliant. Yes, I know you specialize in inner work that heals wounds. Tell me more about your work and what does that involve, especially in your Calibration Day seminar. And you have one on the 7th of June, so really excited to hear more about that, Stella.
Thank you, Anita. So the work that I do is usually one-to-one, and emotional recalibration is about examining your thoughts, your beliefs, and how they affect your emotions, and therefore your behaviors and how you show up in relationships, not just your intimate relationships, but your friendships and your business relationships and your family, just everything.
Yeah.
And so the one-to-one work is really powerful. It's a day, it's a full day with me where we do the unpacking. And I realized that I can't do that for everyone, and not everyone is able to come and see me and get into that kind of one-to-one work. And so the next step was an obvious thing, was to create a group emotional recalibration seminar. And what held me back for a while was I didn't want to make it generic. I didn't want to make it, like a rah, rah, rah. I wanted it to be really, really authentically me. And I was thinking, how does that translate? So it took a little while, but I shouldn't have worried, Anita, because we've already run one emotional recalibration day, and 7th of June is our second one. The only reason there's a second one is because the first one was so powerful.
Wow.
I blew myself away, which was like, oh, thank you. Yay. So Recalibrate is a group seminar, but we hold each other accountable, and there has to be a lot of trust in the room, because what we're doing is we're going to go into that place, that very sensitive place that we all have, which is what we really believe about ourselves. We really get into that and how that is affecting everything that we do. And we go in through a series of different processes. We do some meditation, we do some gentle movement, we do some deep hypnosis, which I love because people say, you can't hypnotize me. We have an arrow break. So, because a lot of what we fear is trapped because we cannot articulate it, verbalize it, speak it. And I want to help people get their voice out into the open without guilt, without fear, without shame. This is me. And it doesn't have to be aggressive. This is about gentle power, beautiful, solid understanding of who you are. And as a result, I can tell you that one lady went home and she knew after 6 years it was time to give her partner an ultimatum. Not an ultimatum, but just look, this is the way I want to live and the way that I need my needs met. And if you don't want to meet them, then I have to. And she found the strength to do that after that day. And we've been in very close contact, and she's doing brilliantly. And in fact, her business has taken off.
Wow.
So, she might be nursing her broken heart, and that will take some time to repair. However, her business has taken off. So, and people have come back and said they've slept better than they've ever slept. So I didn't realize that I put people to sleep, but I put people to sleep. Not at the time, but they went home and they felt more peaceful, more together, more confident in their future, much more in control of their emotions. And I think that's the important thing, is that as we go forward, we want to be able to be happy, playful, appreciative, but at the same time, we've got to find healthy self-respect. And for so many of us, that is the damaged part, the part where we feel we're absorbing too much of everyone else's. We push ourselves to bend to other people, thinking that we're so accommodating, we're so nice. But actually what we're doing is we're people pleasing.
Yes, definitely.
And we're taught you cannot cross that Rubicon. If you do, everyone will hate you. You won't have love. You'll be seen as a bitch. You'll be seen as, as a ball breaker or whatever it is that people want to label us. But actually, it isn't. When you have clearly defined boundaries, which is essentially what this is we do this work so that we can shore up our boundaries and make ourselves the most emotionally robust version of who we really need to be. When we do that, actually, it doesn't come across as hard in any way. It actually comes across as much more elegant, much more powerful, because you take all the wool away, the fluff that's covering things up. You don't dance around a subject. You hit the nail on the head. So, all those conversations that hitherto now you've avoided, you will tackle once you've done Recalibrate. You will be able to be fearless in how you communicate, and whether that's to one or to many, it's about your confidence in your communication by being truly, truly, fiercely authentic, unashamedly yourself.
Wow. You have given us so many tools, daily steps to anyone that wants to start moving from past trauma. What is your key takeaway?
My key takeaway for doing this kind of work is to actually be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. There isn't a miracle cure.
Yes.
And to accept the fact that you will always be on a healing journey, rather than expecting result. I'm done. I'm finished. We're never finished. What we are is more self-aware, which means we can be more compassionate with ourselves and with those around us. And so that we can inform people around us how to treat us best. And if people can't do that, then we reduce the effect that they can have on us, because it may be that you can't get away from them logistically, but you can certainly reduce the effect that someone is having on you. So I think that's it, is that the key takeaway is not to expect this perfect version of yourself, because perfect is really boring. You don't want that. What you want is to be constantly challenged and growing. And the only way that we can challenge and grow is by discomfort, but to always come back to a place that we know we're growing, we're moving, we're developing, we're learning, we're pouring compassion into ourselves and to those around us. That, I think, is my takeaway.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. So where can the listeners find you online? What's your website?
So my website, thank you, Anita, is emotionaltherapy.uk. And from there, you can book a link to have a chat with me. I do complimentary discovery calls. You can find me on Instagram as Stella Dove, on Facebook, Stella Dove. Or I'd love to see you at Emotional Recalibration. So come to Recalibrate. Come to the day, which is on the 7th of June. It's in Belgravia. It's a full day. Yeah, that's how you can find me. The way is that look out, because sometime in the next couple of months, I shall be launching my podcast, Stories with Stella. And it won't be half as good as yours, Anita, because you're so professional at this. But I'm looking for some good tips from you, and hopefully you will come and be a guest on my podcast.
My absolute pleasure. I shall. So all the links will be in the show notes. Please do connect with Stella, and If this is for you, book the calibration day. Definitely. You won't know what it's worth. Absolutely. It'll change your life.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today and doing the work on yourself. By doing so, you have helped so many others and made a difference. I really want to acknowledge you for that, Stella Dove.
Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast. So what is your definition of courage?
My definition of courage is the courage to be authentically yourself, no matter what. Lose the fear, lose the guilt, lose the shame. That is true courage.